In my opinion, the main difference between Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, Jackie Chan is someone who is more subject to hierarchy. Bruce Lee is someone who was more independent, and this seems to be a huge argument. Obviously, there's also there's going to be people who say that it's the opposite, that Jackie Chan was more prone to, uh, but I believe he's applying the method of I think self harm in itself is a form of submission, and that Jackie Chan was doing that, even though it may seem like he was doing new stuff and, as they would say, groundbreaking stuff. To me, self harm in that is a form of extremely submissive behavior, like prostration or whatever. Bruce Lee, on the other hand, is someone who was ingenuitive in his way, and his, I forget what his style that he named his style. Um, Jeet Kune Do. Jeet Kune Do is the name of Bruce Lee's style that he developed. And there's arguments to both cases. That things are being discovered in both methods. But really, for me, it's just a personal preference. I prefer, because I'm not prone to self harm and I'm not prone to submission. I prefer Bruce Lee's method. But I do understand, and I did mention a little bit earlier, I see Jackie Chan certainly a much more skillful martial artist than Bruce Lee. I think if there was a fight between Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee, I think Jackie Chan probably would have eaten him alive. And I hate to say that, but just observing, yes. And, there's arguments that, but ultimately, I think the world is big enough for people to express their life. And obviously, there's a huge urge to kind of bring me into a collective, which I also see as a form of submission. And I'm just not prone to that behavior, and I don't want to do that. I'm supposed to be able to live a free life, an independent life, and I don't want to be brought into that. I understand there's benefits. Some may see it. I don't see it as that. To explain my rationale, I believe forfeiting of privacy for certain benefits in a group is much more dangerous than being independent and maintaining your privacy. And it outweighs the benefits of group behavior, just because it's so harmful for other people to know your business. You're putting yourself at so much risk by exposing your private life to various people, no matter what the benefits are. And the argument is that they're convincing people. I think they've pretty much given up on trying to convince me, but they're just kind of, I guess, trying to using it as a method of provoke, because they realize that I find it so distasteful that I would never, ever, ever sacrifice any form of my privacy, and that's why they made this intrusion, this violent intrusion on my life. But for me personally, it's not worth. It's a huge risk to reward scenario, to where the risk totally outweighs the reward. You're totally making yourself as vulnerable as you can be by entrusting people, especially a large group of people. So in that way, I would say Bruce Lee was more capable in that way, but that's according to my interpretation. But from a martial arts standpoint, and the benefits of that kind of prostration and that complete, following instructions from yeah, Jackie Chan, I think he would eat anyone alive, in his day. I think if you put Jackie Chan in the UFC, for instance, I mean, it's a funny thing, I think he would eat anybody alive. But that's really not the point. I'm not even trying to compete. I'm trying to live an independent life, a free life for a person, and I'm definitely not in that. But just to the fact that this may be what we're seeing is this kind of, group, but I don't want to participate. I'm just a simple person. I want to live my free life. That there's certain things that are meant to be in place to enable me to do that, throughout the world, and that's it. And I think it's just a huge risk. And these people realize it now. Unfortunately, they realize that it's like a membership card. Sure, you get some benefits. You get like a 5% discount or whatever it is. But the risk far outweighs with the leaks that have been happening. And you hear all this stuff. Breach. I'm just using that as an example. So in that way, I find Bruce Lee a much more better defensive, actually a more astute, defensive type of mentality as opposed to 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 the other form. Because like I said, you have to, you're when you're submitting to somebody or a group, you're entrusting, and with that, you're taking risks. You're taking risks, and I like people. In my opinion, it's better to depend on yourself. But this is an argument, it's a global argument, in various different forms. But yeah, in a fight, I mean, have you seen Jackie Chan movies? Like, Jackie Chan would, I think he would, and I've seen Bruce Lee, and his kicks and stuff and his Jeet Kune Do. And yeah, but he got hurt badly, Bruce Lee in a fight. They say it was a cheap shot to his back, but maybe, yeah, most likely it wasn't a cheap shot to Bruce Lee's back. Most likely they let him know, you don't know what you're doing, and you need to listen, you need to take direction, or, and it was probably a really big threat. I don't think in the movie they portrayed it as a kick to the back. It's possible, but I think they really, they said, you don't know, and you gotta, you've created, and now you have to be managed, basically, I think is what they try to tell him, and he obviously didn't. And then I'm assuming some form of Zedzung occurred according to the cinematography in the movie. Yeah, because like I said, if you just look at the difference in martial, I mean, with all due respect to Bruce Lee, I mean, if you just look at the difference of skill. And I know Jackie Chan stuff allegedly is sped up. I don't think all of it's sped up. I think a lot of it was his natural speed, because you can tell when something's sped up. They say, oh, they sped it up. Some stuff is, but some stuff really isn't. And then so that's what I would say about that. I think they said, listen, now, and I think that's the whole symbolism of the movie. It's like, now, you don't know what you're doing, kid. So that's it. And in a similar way, they know they can't, in my scenario, they don't have any use for me anyway. They can't. There's nothing they can do with me at this point. It's just harm. And I'm not even someone who was even talented at anything, really. I'm really not. I was just a person who escaped, and my existence is bothersome to certain groups of people. But I'm not even a capable person in any way. I'm like the most average person that could possibly be. But just unfortunately, circumstantially, it creates a problem for. But they know they can't do anything. It's just they're just like what the what.